Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I now recognize Mr. King.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Henderson, in reviewing your testimony, and I direct you, if you could, to page 5 of your testimony, at least as I count those pages, you have a paragraph that begins, in closing, I'd like to add that civil and human rights organizations do take note of how consistently or inconsistently, I'd ask you to focus on this phrase, inconsistently in this case, advocates for restricted immigration policies show their concern for the welfare of African Americans. That phrase, in this case, could you inform this panel as to whom that refers to or what entity that might refer to?
I don't think it refers specifically to any entity, Congressman King. What it says, in effect, is that African Americans as a community look at the totality of positions taken by those who both support our positions and those who would seek to oppose them. And what we have found is that there's a fundamental inconsistency. There are many who would use the...
And I did read that testimony, and I heard you in your testimony where you already presented that orally. And as I look at this, you state that immigration restrictionists have been opposed to Head Start, for racial profiling, apparently against affirmative action and against hate crimes, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
But I direct your attention to the paragraph above that says African Americans understand that it is inherently wrong to divide people along the lines of race or ethnicity or national origin, and that creating us versus them scenarios does not help anyone in the long run. Would you acknowledge that there are people that have people of goodwill and good intellect that believe that these policies that you advocate actually divide people along the very lines that you have identified that I just read to you?
No, I reject that, Mr. King. Quite frankly, I think...
Okay, and then you... Okay, I hear your answer to that.
Okay.
Now I'd ask you then that as I read this, from my side of this view, as I read this, this is a thinly veiled allegation of racism. And
not at all. That's
you believe
your term,
that...
sir, not mine.
Okay, then I'll ask you a direct question.
That's your term, not mine.
Do you believe that the people who are immigration restrictionists, by your definition, are racist?
I was quite precise in the language I chose to use, Mr. King. What I said...
So was I, Mr. Henderson.
Well, what I said was that immigration restrictionists have practiced wedge politics, divisive politics, that I think is harmful to the country.
Would you, though, answer my precise question?
Which is?
Which is, do you believe the immigration restrictionists are...
I never used that term.
Do you believe they are?
And I'm not going to characterize...
In other words, you won't say you don't believe they are or won't?
Well,
answer me?
I think that group indictments and group libel are inappropriate.
Then I'll ask you specifically, do you personally believe that?
I'm responding to your question.
I agree.
I don't think you ask a question about whether we believe that restrictionists in their entirety are racist. If you ask me about an individual who has taken a particular position, I would answer that based on...
I have taken these particular positions, so I'll ask you about me. Do you believe that?
I will not make a group libel, notwithstanding your view.
I've asked you, do you believe then that I am a racist?
Why would I believe that, sir?
I read this, and I'll tell you that I'm often told how people interpret what they read. I'm telling you how I interpret that. And I'm asking you if you could give me a clear answer to that. And you said you reject the people of goodwill.
I don't know nearly well enough to make a determination of your personal views on issues of race. I would hesitate to make a comment about whether you are or are not racist. Only you, I think, could make that determination in the context at hand.
If I hadn't made that determination, I wouldn't have had enough guts to ask you that question, Mr. Henderson, and I appreciate your response to this. And I would then